This episode is brought to you by Cruising Bears, a global travel community built on giving bears, chubs, and chasers the ultimate vacation escape. Visit bigfatgaycruise.com for details.
Welcome back to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we love to talk about the things that are weighing on our minds. My name's Don Marshall. I'm a big chubby guy living here in sunny Hollywood. And today, I am a happy, well-lit boy. I'm surrounded by all my lovely new lamps, and I feel so bright and sunny. It's exciting.
Well-lit place. Hello, my name is Dan Oliverio, author, public speaker, and chubby chaser. And today I am a whiplash weather boy. We have had cold nights. We have had hot days. We have had all sorts of weather in the last week. And I'm just trying to figure out what the hell to put on in the morning.
I'm Trevor Keyson, and I'm a super chub, and I'm also a weather whiplash boy. Although I've just been mostly cold, and we saw Amadeus last night, and when
Amadeus the play. Yeah.
Yes. And when Mozart was freezing to death, it felt like an immersive experience because the peasant playhouse was freezing.
Hi, I'm Michael Willer. I'm a chubby chaser, and I don't usually record the podcast with the sweatshirt on. So
there you go.
That probably just confirms everyone else's suspicions that I'm overdressed.
Well, quick thank you to our Patreons and partners for helping us keep the lights on and keeping our editors editing. Quick reminder to get 15% off on your bearskin order with our promo code BigFatGayPod, and use our Big Fig link if you're looking for a new mattress for a really good night's sleep.
Yeah.
We also want to continue giving shout outs to our newest partner, Cruising Bears, who are getting ready for their Mega Rock Star Cruise to Bermuda, departing New York on April 11th of this year. And you can find details at bigfatgaycruise.com. Don't forget to sign up for our Discord, where we have all sorts of fun conversations going on. Don't forget to sign up for our free newsletter that comes out when needed. You know the drill. And with that said, let us segue smoothly into pop culture.
So smooth.
Yes.
Uber smooth. And credit smooth.
I am so excited to share this with everyone.
I love this story.
From our so a new meme has arisen from there was a pro ice troll at a Lake Zurich high school, and a fat kid has become a legend, immortalized as a meme in so many different forms.
In a good way.
Yes.
And like a good meme.
So the story here is there was a anti-ice protest at a Lake Zurich high school, Lake Zurich in Illinois. And this one individual, a senior named Nick Spud, who is a...
No, wait, his name is Nick Spud?
Yes.
His actual name is Spud?
Yes.
Oh boy. Jesus.
And he is a hoping to be a kind of alt-right commentator, kind of douchebaggy guy.
Yes. Filling that Charlie Kirk vacuum.
Yeah, Nick Fuentes, like that kind of vibe. And he had his Meta, the camera glasses. He showed up to this anti-ice protest with a pro-ice sign, and you see that. So he posted this video on X, formerly Twitter, and you see the one kid walk by like, oh man, that's crazy. And then this other student who is still unnamed, so he comes up and
people don't call him brown hoodie guy.
Yeah,
I think
so. This iconic fat kid with glasses and a brown hoodie, and he goes up to Spud and he says, yeah, I'm going to punch you in the face. And Spud said, you're going to punch me? And he says, yes. And then Spud says, you're going to get in trouble for that. And the kid says, okay. And he immediately punches him in the face. And this people freeze framed this, the kid pulling like his punch back, the wind up. Yeah. And it has become a meme. And what I love is, so after he punches the kid, a security guard from the school intervenes, and Spud says, I stand for my beliefs. I was going to peacefully stand here and support my beliefs. I support ICE and law enforcement. And the kid who punched him says, you can peacefully go fuck yourself. Which I love that more than the like, okay, wind up. You can peacefully go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Is so great. But there's so many great memes that have come from it, artwork. And we were talking about this before the call, and I was like, no, we got to save it for the podcast. I think especially just in the climate we're in, a fat kid becoming a positive meme
Yeah.
Yeah.
and like a hero is just so amazing.
So a lot of the memes are around the same screen grab from this video of him in mid wind up, and he's I don't know if you've having been an editor most of my adult life, I've gone through a lot of videos frame by frame, and people don't look good in freeze frame generally. But this, for whatever reason, he just looks.
He looks like a Marvel superhero.
He looks, it looks like a still from a comic of somebody drawing the hero about to deck the bad guy into next season. Like he looks so confident and sure of himself. He's like locked in on his target. Like it's just everything you would want. And so like a lot of them are like, it's that still, and then the masculinity that I support, beating up Nazis, or if Logan Paul, it's shot reverse shot, Logan Paul cowering in the corner after having been beaten up in the ring. So like it's for most of the internet's history, any meme involving a fat person was about how inept or awkward or
the
fat
Star Wars kid,
or just unacceptable.
One of the
Numa guy.
prime examples.
You might be thinking, why are we celebrating violence? Why are we celebrating? It's okay to hit these people, but it's not okay to hit those people. And I think what this meme is tapping into, because you can have those debates and they're valid debates. What this meme is tapping into that I think is important is this idea that in standing up for people who are being murdered and imprisoned and otherwise being sequestered, there's this thing where the bad guys don't have to play by the rules, but you're a good guy and you have to play by the rules. And Don,
Exactly.
I think there's a comic book tie into this. Isn't this the whole Batman argument where like the Joker says like, haha, you can't kill me. You're Batman. You're a good guy. And Batman says, watch me, or something like that. Or somebody help me out with this because I don't know comics.
I mean, that is famously the one differentiating factor between those two is sort of they're both crazy in the same way, but Batman won't kill and Joker will.
But then Batman says, "I'm going to punch you in the face."
Yeah, but then Batman beats the snot out of him and puts him in jail. So like, it's not like he's anti-violence. He just that's his one.
No, and I mean the fact that like fucking it's it is taking the bait, but also owning like, yes, I'm going to face consequences and I'm going to punch you in the face.
Yeah, and it's worth it.
Right.
And it responds to, I mean, in the greater political sense, like right now, the Trump administration is just breaking the law and they know it and they don't care. And meanwhile, a lot of people are accusing the Democrats of like, well, we can't do that because it would be against the rules. And it's a response to fuck the rules. They're not playing by the rules. Why should we? And then you also get dragged into the argument of like, Michelle Obama, when they go low, we go high. And you begin to question, are you just playing with your hands tied behind your back if the other side does not have boundaries? Does that authorize you to not have boundaries? It's a legitimate moral question.
Well, and so one of the images that came from this, one of the memes was a line drawing of the OK Kid doing the pullback punch with OK, which is a parody of the "Don't Tread on Me" flag. Which is very much the far right has co-opted.
Yes.
But then frequently, like, there's also people have made that into a meme where it's the snake from the "Don't Tread on Me" flag kissing a boot.
Oh, yeah.
Because there is this whole "Don't tread on me" thing, but then kowtowing to Trump's regime that is killing people on the streets and being like, well, it's okay because they're just following orders and they're doing their job.
Yeah, and the whole argument in favor of the Second Amendment is, look, we need those guns to protect us from an intrusive and oppressive government. And we're like, so where are you now?
So,
where are you?
Yeah.
Where are you?
I love this is the in 2010s the Nazi getting punched in the side of the head.
Yeah.
That became an iconic freeze frame, and now we have a wind up for the 2020s.
Jesus.
Fat power.
What? These are the things we get to look forward to.
And happy 2026.
But here's something real you can look forward to. We've got a Fat Watch.
Yay.
Fat Watch 2026.
Take me away,
Yeah.
Italy. Take me into the stars.
I'm imagining that orange grove smell from Sorno, California.
It's a soothing Soothing spell. So today in Fat Watch, we have an article in Australian publication SBS Food, written by Mark Mariano, who's a food writer and body positivity advocate. And it's sort of a two-part thing where he's sharing his own experiences, growing up as a fat kid and just loving food, but also having the kind of, struggles that I think a lot of people do, like whether or not you feel like you're allowed to, and sort of finding food joy where you can. And he sort of relates this personal story of watching food personality Huey Hewitson, who I'd never heard of before. Have you guys heard of him?
I think he must be Australian.
I think he probably is.
I mean, Huey Hewitson in the news?
Yeah, exactly. But he's fat. And sort of in this article, Mark relates a moment where when he was a kid, Huey said, "Never trust a skinny chef." And that sort of stuck with him. And he's carried that forward in his sensibilities into doing an episode of an Australian show called Tell Me What You Really Think. And the episode specifically is titled Fat in all caps. And it's Australian. I haven't been able to find out how to watch any of the show, but as far as I can tell, it's like, everyone sits down, they have different personalities on, and they sit down, you have a meal and you talk. I think that's the format. But the point was, he is fat going on a show called Fat. And there's a nervousness and a hesitation that I had going into it of I don't know, how do I go on and represent and help people feel good? And he's like, I don't really have the delusion that I can go out and change the world, but I can go out and be joyful and encourage people to find the joy in food and sort of lead by example. And so that's how he went into that environment. Then he wrote up this lovely article about it. And he also included some tips for finding joy in food from a child of Huey, as he calls himself. And the first one is follow your gut. No, literally, follow your gut.
Well, it's in front of you. You have to.
Yeah, figure out the dishes that you love. Try something new. See if you like it. Explore. Have curiosity about the foods and experiences. And bring a friend of yours in if you want. Eat intuitively. Literally, just when you are hungry, eat. When you're not hungry, then you don't. And eat what it is that you crave, and don't worry about, whether or not it's the right time or the right amount or the right thing or the right whatever. And then finally, fuck being polite. I love that. If you're sitting at a dinner table and everyone's done, but there's a little bit of that goodness left in the casserole dish. Yeah, if people are done, sop it up with some bread, have it, don't be the person who worries so much about being seen consuming some food. Yeah. If you know that it will give you joy, if you know that it will be something that makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're in a new wave of first quarter GLP-1 ad sales the Make America Healthy Again. Maha. Whatever.
Maha.
With the Super Bowl was especially egregious. And I think going into the Oscars, I think there's going to be another big advertising wave. And just I love seeing fat people talking about food, being happy about food. Yeah, I love to see it. You should give Mark a follow on his Instagram handle is MarkUsMuch, MarkusMuch. Give him a follow. Like his stories, like his posts. Tell him, be like, oh, do you know this podcast? It's really cool.
Do you know Trevor from this podcast? He's really cool.
You should.
Well, we wanted to do our tip for today a little early because we have a special guest coming up, and we wanted to give the latter half of the episode that full attention. So, Trevor, what is our tip for the day?
So there is a new fundraiser for a fat movie, a bear movie, Only Bears, by Adam Kern and Jeff Willey. They're fundraising for their short film, Only Bears, which is about a married couple navigating intimacy, stagnation, and connection when love alone isn't enough to move them forward. They're drawing from their own lived experience, and the story reflects what intimacy actually looks like once the storybook ending fades.
So they're raising money to do this short film. The funding is currently active now and will be going for another 2 weeks after this episode goes live. So you'll still have time to support them if you want. Go check it out. It's a short pitch video with the two of them. They're a really adorable couple. But they also underline what their plan is. So they're making this short film, but it is in service of making a longer project. I believe it's a show that they had planned. But as they point out, a lot of really successful and famous movies and probably also shows have been made this way, where you kind of have to prove.
Yeah, they started as short films.
Yeah, like you have to prove the concept, and a lot of people who make decisions about what gets made and what doesn't don't necessarily have the vision to see what the concept is without literally seeing it. And so this would be like a pitch tool. It would be a way for them to raise. And so they're trying to get just under $20,000. They're about a third of the way there already, which is fantastic. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate the honesty of this. Like, they address the fact that, like, this isn't just us going, hey, like, we're such a great couple and people should know about us. It's not like there's actually a very legitimate thing of, in the film industry, if you want to tell stories about marginalized people, you kind of have to do it yourself in a lot of cases. And unless you already have some kind of access point to pitch at a high level, most of the time you're just scraping together whatever resources you can to do it yourself and make it happen. And so that's the place that they're in, and they intend to highlight like other stories, other people. They're starting with themselves as the proof of concept so that they can then eventually grow it out to be more expansive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So where can people go to support the movie, Michael?
So they are currently crowdfunding on seedandspark.com, SEED and spark.com. The project is called Only Bears. And we will also have the link on our website. You can easily just click straight through to it, or you can search for them. And we wish them all of the best luck. I'm going to support this right after we get off of our call, and hope to see it happen.
Yeah.
Yay.
So just for people to know, we are about to go into a subject that talks about a lot of issues around eating disorders. And so we wanted to put a trigger warning here for anybody who is sensitive to those kinds of topics, such as bulimia, anorexia, binge eating, and other types of eating disorders. It is a respectful conversation, and it does have a lot of positive bents to it, but it is also very direct and very real. So if that is a concern to you, you're welcome to skip the latter half of this episode or come back to it at a time that you feel more comfortable.
We'd like to welcome our guest, Kyle Ridley, an Emmy Award-winning journalist and television producer, media consultant, and host of his own podcast, The Tangle with Kyle Ridley. But the reason we wanted to talk to Kyle on the Big Fat Gay podcast today is that Kyle recently did an interview with the Washington Blade, a gay newspaper in D.C., about his recovery from bulimia, an eating disorder that, according to some studies, is 10 times more prevalent among gay men than straight men. And I can tell you from decades in the fat community that many chubs, chasers, gainers, and encouragers have battled with eating disorders as well. So Kyle, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Indeed. I kind of want to get into this via that interview you did with the Blade. What made you want to come out as having an eating disorder?
I think I made a conscious decision this year to sort of step away from behind the camera, which is where I've worked most of my life. So I was a TV producer and journalist for 20 plus years and helping people share their stories. And I felt like I had a lot that was hidden that I wanted to share, that I was itching to share. So last year when I started my podcast and started doing these long form interviews with people, I sort of got the itch to share what I had been through, because I think there's only good that can come from sharing your story. It can only help others. It can only help identify with others. Definitely. And so after almost 13 years in recovery, I just said this year I'm going to reach out and try to see if people want to hear my story, how I can share my story. And that's been my goal so far.
I was just curious if what kind of responses you've gotten from people who've like read the story, and like what has the actual reception been like?
It's only been positive. I don't think there's really anything negative that can come from sharing your struggles and Survivor, because I think so many people are going to connect with it. I've definitely gotten some messages from men thanking me for sharing their stories and that they secretly struggle, because I think it is such a hidden disease in the male community. As you said, it's pretty prevalent. I think estimates show it's 20 to 25% of men encompass the eating disorder community. We just don't talk about it. I can tell you from 10 years in TV, I booked over 15,000 segments. That was one of my main jobs in producing an hour-long show every day, was booking the guests. And every February, which is Eating Disorder Awareness Month, I would get pitches for survivors and to raise awareness, and nurses come in, and every single person was a woman. So I think men are just pretty scared to speak up. I think it comes from that toughen up mentality that we're raised with. And it's also just, there's so much of a stigma still surrounding eating disorders that it's a female disease or it's a feminine disease. And it's just not true.
I think you're absolutely right. And it's curious that it's so prevalent among gay men. And I don't know if that's because straight men just keep their mouth shut, or if it's because of it's sort of associated with being less masculine, or it's a concern of that. This seems to be somehow tied up in masculinity.
Yeah, I think there's a look that being body conscious or self-conscious is feminine or weak. But as you said, it runs the gamut of disorders. You can look at bodybuilders or people with six packs and bulging biceps, and there's an obsession that comes along with that. There's an addiction that comes along with that. And there's often a lot of restriction and secrecy and struggle.
Oh, definitely. I mean, one of the places you see a lot of straight men suffering with this is in sports, is in wrestling. A lot of sports, have either body consciousness or even like they weigh you. I mean, wrestling, they friggin' weigh you.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. There are, legendary athletes, absolute world-class athletes who will go through a season of not looking quite as, emaciated as they did the previous one. And that becomes known as their fat season. Even if it's, they still have six-pack abs, but somehow just that slight shift, or like maybe there's more weight in their face or whatever, and suddenly that's their fat season. And I feel like that just feeds that idea that like any tiny shift in your body or how you look is sort of magnified and made to kind of either be on one end of the spectrum or the other. You're either fat or you're skinny.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a lifelong obsession. And, I grew up in the 90s, so where it was heroin chic era and a different diet every week. And I was not immune to it. I think I went on a different diet every Monday. And, this is the week I'm going to start. I was a husky kid or a fat kid, chubby kid, which I don't love those terms, but that's how I grew up. And the pressure is on very early. You see it in media. You see it in, I think, school. You see it in people around you, comments that they make, maybe adults commenting on their body. And now I think we're sort of, the pendulum swung into a body positive era, and now we're swinging the pendulum back where we're on GLP-1s, and we're seeing this whole new era of skeleton bodies, and it's being celebrated. But it's pretty scary to look at and to witness and see people wasting away and sort of it just being accepted and knowing that it's only becoming more prevalent.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true, because you see, it's hard to talk someone out of their bulimia or anorexia when they get so much praise for it, when there's so much positive reinforcement that thinner is better. And, I of course you're doing it healthy because you're leaner, and leaner means healthier, and therefore you're doing it healthily. And it's just this farce.
Eating disorders aren't just restricting or purging. There's binge eating disorders, and there's it runs a spectrum. I think a lot of it is about control. It's not really about the food. I think it's about what you're controlling around you or how you're soothing yourself, whether it's stress or anxiety. And for me, it became my everything. So it became my excuse. It became my reward. If something bad happened, then binge and purge. If I got a on a test, binge and purge. I was highly successful, which I think a lot of people with eating disorders are. I had a good job. I graduated college, 4.0, but in private, that was all I really lived for. It was like a drug. When's my next fix? How can I get home? And there's a lot of isolation. There's a lot of lying. There's a lot of secrecy that comes with that.
And so it sounds like for you, Kyle, in particular, there's lots of reasons people succumb to this or are victimized by this. But I wonder, in some cases, there's definitely a repulsion against the fat body. In some cases, it's really, as you say, it's like stress coping and a mechanism. And I'm wondering if you could speak to a little bit about that. Or, there's obviously your experience, but I'm sure you've run into people with other experiences too.
Yeah, I guess if I would sort of encapsulate just my upbringing, I think that I grew up, I do have family members that have struggled with eating disorders, and while they try to hide it, I think kids just have a way of being in tune with, something's different about them, or that comment isn't right. Or I had heard a family member throwing up when I was younger and tried to keep it and tried to confront them, and it was denied. But we have intuition. And then I think I just sort of, being the chubby kid, I went in all those crash diets. And I think the first time I made myself throw up was later in my teen years. And it became like a once every few months, 6 months thing. And it just didn't seem like an issue. It was like, I'm having a big night. I'm binging. I'm going to a buffet and I'll get rid of it. And it's easy. But something so easy can spiral into something so serious pretty fast. And I was in my early 20s when it developed into a full-blown disorder, and I was in a relationship at that time I probably shouldn't have been in. I was came out at 17 and was with someone for 6 years that was 25 years older than me, not really appropriate, and thinking that I was super adult and could handle everything. And I think it sort of exploded in my face in my early 20s, where I was almost too adult for my age and didn't know how to grasp everything. And that was one thing I could control, was what I could put in my body and what I could take out of my body. And it started with just one of those, Monday diets, and I incorporated working out into it, and then it was restricting. And by the end of the week, I think I ordered a pizza or two. It was not uncommon for me to eat just everything around me, and thought, okay, this is my treat. This is my cheat meal at the end of the week. And then the next day started working out again. And I think that just the starvation, it was like, I have to run to the store again and fill up on all these snacks and get rid of it. And it became like an easy thing. So it became a daily thing, and then quickly became a multi-daily thing, and then quickly became a thing throughout my 7-8 years throughout my 20s until I started getting help around 30.
Yeah. I know for me, I was a fat kid growing up, and I thought about food and food choices constantly, and had just huge body envy of guys that I perceived as fitter or hotter or whatever, and not even knowing I was gay at the time. And I remember wondering, what's it like to eat and not think about what you're eating? That was just an alien, like it was conscious to me that was an alien idea, that you could just eat something and not worry about it.
Yeah, I don't think I cared as much maybe in my early years until maybe middle school, when all the bullying starts. And also, you're not just the chubby kid, you're also the chubby gay kid. And that just piles on. And you become even more self-conscious. But I didn't know about nutrition probably until I started recovery. And, remember in the 90s, fat was bad. Every single fat was bad. There were snack wells. There was those Alestra Wow trips and Slim Fast and those bars. And it wasn't... It wasn't uncommon for you to, your parents to just have a Slim Fast shake in the fridge for lunch or dinner.
The 90s, back when anal leakage was considered to be more attractive than being a little chubby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, it was the era of skinny, for those, who don't remember or don't know, that was the era of skinny jeans. It was the fat suit. It was the, the formerly fat character on Friends or on some other show where they, the big embarrassment, the big episode is they used to be fat.
Yeah.
Do you see representation changing now? Like I'm thinking about male bodies in the current eye, and to me, it's still super thin bodies being like Heated Rivalry kind of comes to mind. That's the male physique ideal being presented in 2026. I can't help thinking that may inspire a few more people to take drastic measures to try and measure up to these examples that we're laying out. Do you see the media environment being any different now than the period when you started your issues with it?
I think so. Again, slowly but surely. But I think we are embracing a bit more of all types of body types. I've seen, I like the embrace of the dad bod in recent years, because I actually prefer that. If you are looking on an app or checking off your type of guy, I'm like a guy next door. I don't need chiseled abs and 6-pack abs. It's not what I long for. But I think a lot of times people with eating disorders, that's not what they long for. I think it's just longing for control and the results and the feeling you get when you start losing and it becomes an addiction and you don't know how to stop. But, I was super, super thin, but that's not what I found attractive. So it's different than just how you look. I also am heartened by like the show Heartstopper, which really delved into eating disorders in the third season with its main character, which I had never seen. It was throughout the whole season, he was dealing with anorexia and his partner approaching him and him getting help. So I think that gave a voice to many younger men. We didn't have any of that growing up. There was really nothing until the late 90s, which started being like Will and Grace. I mean, early in the 90s, we had Ricky on My So-Called Life, but it was few and far between. So, it's taken a few decades, but slowly again.
Yeah, it's funny. I think you put your finger on it earlier when you said that it's not masculine to be concerned about how you look. But in the gay community, it's very much how you look. It's amazing that. And I think when that episode or episodes, that season of Bridgerton came out, where you had the thin, attractive guy with a romance with a fat woman. And the media erupted. Like, can you believe we're finally having mixed size couples? And a lot of people online were like, excuse me, we've been having mixed size couples for decades, except it was the man who was fat. And nobody had a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, King of Queens and the honeymoon, way back to the honeymooners. Like, if the man is fat and as long as the wife is thin, we're okay. But oh my God, if the woman is fat, people were up in arms. And again, I think it keeps coming back to that masculinity thing of you're not allowed to care. I think it's why we see a lot of fat men not engaged in the fat rights movement. It's like, it's not okay to care.
Yeah, and I think with gay men, I mostly have identified and connected most with women. So I think growing up, if you're seeing women being criticized for being fat, you're almost identifying more with that than, the macho guy with the hot girlfriend. It doesn't matter that he's fat. Because all my friends growing up were women. So I always identified with female characters on TV, and they're still my favorite. So I almost feel like we're more drawn to them, and in turn, we're more affected.
Yeah. In your job as a TV producer, did that affect how you saw weight, how you saw eating? Did that turn up the volume, so to speak? Because obviously being in a gay environment is very body conscious. And the media environment, we talk often on the podcast about how there's a lot of body consciousness in Hollywood, obviously. And I'm wondering if you had any experience in your producing capacity where it got magnified or it was more emphasized.
I moved into broadcasting at the start of my recovery, so I was getting help at that point. But I can definitely see the pressure with people in front of the camera and always having to maintain a nice presence. And I've definitely had anchors that were on diets a lot and wouldn't eat much in food segments and were very self-conscious. But yeah, it was mainly, I felt it mostly, I think, in my 20s when I just didn't know what the world was to me, who I was, where I was going. And that was just my escape. I didn't really have a social life throughout my 20s. It becomes a disease of secrecy. I think there's a difference between privacy and secrecy, where privacy is more out of respect and you're keeping things to yourself or keeping things private between you and someone else out of their privacy. But there's a lot of shame in secrecy. So you're lying, you're hiding. And I felt like the secrets were just piling up. And with those, the lies pile up and it's going to come crashing down on you. So my walls were kind of crumbling by the end of my 7-year addiction of binging and purging every day and hiding from people and not talking to people and making excuses. And, people wouldn't really see me and they would see a photo of me. And that's how they would understand something was up. I avoided a lot of family functions, always had excuses. And it ended up being like a mini intervention between my mom, who was pretty much the only person aware that I was in the depths of bulimia, and then my ex-husband at the time, who did not know what I was going through for the first 2 years of our relationship. And she contacted him, I think, just out of fear. And in turn, I got help because I was scared of, I think, losing him, losing the stability of that relationship that I was proud of in our home. And I also was scared of sort of losing myself and getting sick, because just like dieting, I would plan to quit every Monday and never gonna binge and purge again. I'm gonna work out and be a normal, healthy guy. And I, moved a couple times and sort of felt like, a fresh start. I can just start clean. It did not happen. So I got to the point where I was like, maybe I'll never get better. And maybe I'll just end up forever in this hiding space and throwing up every day and struggling. And fear forced me to get help.
Yeah. What was it like, if you don't mind? What was the thing that was like so hard to give up? Like, yeah, it's a good idea to quit, but I'd have to give up what?
Well, like a drug, the act of binging and purging is soothing. It sounds destructive. It is destructive. It's a violent thing to do to your body. But when that's all you're living for, when you go to the store and you get those, you fill up your grocery cart because you're going to go home and binge, or you fill up your DoorDash cart or whatever, and know you're going to be in private and you're going to be in your comfort zone where there's no stress and you're just stuffing your face until you feel numb, and then you're going to the bathroom and getting rid of it all. That's almost like a comfort, and at the same time it's almost like a high, because right after you crash, like I would crash into bed afterward, and then you wake up and you're ready to do it again. So a very destructive pattern, but it was also soothing to me. It was also, I would race home from work. I made it through a day. I get to have my drugs now.
Yeah. Was the vomiting, was that more of an atonement for what you had done, or was it more like, and that's the completion, like that's part of it?
I was curious if there was a pleasure to the purging. It makes it sound like the experience itself was a pleasurable experience to you.
It was shame-filled, but yeah, there's a weird pleasure to it. I would say just like drugs or smoking or drinking, you know you're doing damage to your body, but you know in the moment it's comforting you, but you're also all alone. You're isolating. If I couldn't be home alone, then I would be going to buffets by myself and purging in bathrooms. And you sort of have an eye. I think addicts have an eye, and I could see other people alone at buffets and know something was up with them. Or I would be in my car and park somewhere and eat, and then go into a restaurant and throw up. It's a shame-ridden cycle, but yeah, there's a high that goes along with being able to do everything you want and know that you can get rid of it and you're not going to gain weight. But it definitely messes with your mind. I was not in a healthy mindset for a long time. Because it requires you to downplay everything. If anyone questions you, you have your excuse right there. And in turn, I really didn't have friends for maybe throughout my 20s and most of my 30s. And even in recovery, I sort of was isolating a lot because I was focusing on that and getting better and not really opening up my world to other people too, because I was just trying to figure out my new normal. So it wasn't really until my divorce in my late 30s that I actually went and built community and opened up with others, and now opening up even more in my early 40s. But it's a long recovery process, but it's rewarding and it's necessary for sure.
Yeah.
But again, once I started getting better, you almost trade one addiction for the next. I became orthorexic for a long time, because after you're not binging and purging, then you're really focusing on everything you eat.
What is orthorexic?
It's becoming so fixated on what you eat, where it's like almost everything is too healthy, studying the labels, studying every calorie, like measuring stuff. And it becomes almost like, it's like almost all organic, all fruits, all vegetables. It becomes almost, you're eating almost less calories because you're not binging. And when you purge, you're still maintaining some, but when you're only having natural stuff going to your body, that becomes a fixation as well. So it's been long-term, where almost every year I'm incorporating new foods into my diet, those fear foods or those bad foods. And then finally realizing that there really aren't bad foods. It's moderation. But it's a big learning curve, and it takes a long time. And I'm still incorporating new food into my diet because unlike drugs or alcohol, it's not something that you're never going to touch again. I'm touching food every single day, fully aware of what goes into my body. And that doesn't just go away. Your brain is rewired a certain way. You learn more. So, I can have a cake or a pizza in front of me and think, oh, do I want to have all that? Am I going to feel okay after that? Am I going to feel sluggish, or would I rather fill up on this? So for me, it's like more about moderation. So if in the past I could not have the chips and salsa on the table, I couldn't have one. If I had one, then I need to order everything off the menu and then go home and have another binge and keep it complete. But knowing now, 1, 2, whatever I have, it's not gonna be my end all. I can. And, it's also about treating yourself. So I have days where I do eat too much, and I probably binge and lounge on the couch, but I'm not beating myself up. I'm not running to the toilet. I know that, tomorrow's another day and I'll work out, and it's a normalcy right now. It's not dire. It's not, it be all end all.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, I think one of the things that we see, you talk about orthorexia, that sort of discipline of I must eat the correct food, and I must feed myself correctly, and I must do the correct exercise, and everything is about elevating health to almost a religion. And I think it is really difficult to swim against that tide, because we have a society that makes money from that. This, orthorexia is another name for that, is the wellness industry, where, don't eat this, eat that. I can sell you this, by the way. And it's pulling so hard for people to be worried about everything that goes in their mouth. And I think orthorexia is the next door neighbor to a lot of other eating disorders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up in a very similar, I do wonder if I would talk to my mom more about it, what she would say about it, but definitely felt that sort of orthorexia. Like, she was on every health food craze, and, she was vegan for a while until it turned out that was actually maybe just for her, the way that she was doing it. It was like very bad for her health. But I was just like hyper aware of like what you eat makes you right or wrong, depending on what you choose.
Yeah.
But as someone with, for most of my life, undiagnosed ADHD, oftentimes my behavior was driven by seeking dopamine and some kind of something that would soothe my brain that was like constantly trying to fall asleep. And usually that was through sugar. And, in a household that was sugar restrictive and very anti anything with, overly processed sweet things, that became like not just a craving because I kind of needed support for my brain in a way, but it then sort of developed it into like a binge eating disorder that I carried through my 20s up until, I'm 30, I'm almost 36 now. And I would say that was like a continual, consistent problem right up until like 2020. And I haven't talked about it that much on the podcast. I think I brought it up a couple times, but I have very distinct memories of like, living by myself in Hollywood and, kind of being like the struggling, like young person, just trying to, get by and have a life and everything's too expensive. And like literally going and buying like a pint of Ben & Jerry's and a bag of candy and just like having a binge night and feeling like that would give me some degree of like, it was soothing in a way.
Is it escape? Isn't it escape?
Kind of. I think part of it was the secrecy of it. Like you sort of get away with it with yourself, for me at least. But I hit the point many times of feeling that urge to go throw up. Like just, and I walked right up to that door dozens of times. And the only thing that kept me from going through it was this like deep-seated fear of like, what threshold am I crossing over if I go do that?
To clarify, to intentionally make yourself go throw up is what you're saying.
Yeah, to purge. And so it came from a different place. Like I think there's always like the internalized fat phobia and like, wanting to make sure that you don't gain weight. And there's those elements, but I really do think as a kid born out of like ADHD dopamine chasing and not having access to something that was like the easiest way to just make my brain feel okay. And then spiraled as I became an adult, right up to the point of almost going down the exact same road Kyle did. And also not talking about it. This is the most extensively I've talked about it in any group of people this large. And I think that part of what has made me feel a lot better about my life generally and a lot more secure in myself, and frankly, so that I don't really deal with those issues anymore, is just, like doing the podcast, figuring out who I am, and then sharing those stories and talking to people and being open about things instead of secretive and instead of feeling like reveling in the shame in a way. Because that just becomes a cycle of feeling really good and then feeling awful and then making yourself feel better and then feeling awful because of it.
Yeah, there's all forms. There's exercise bulimia. There's laxatives. It's not just making yourself throw up. There's different ways there's different methods to get rid of it all. But yeah, I think a lot of it stems from anxiety. I had anxiety after I was in recovery, and I started recovery in 2014, and I ended up going on anti-anxiety medicine in 2020, so in the pandemic, and resisted it so much, just that mentality of, I can fix everything myself, but sometimes you need help, and not a high dose, but I wonder what that could have done if I had gone on it earlier, because I still get anxiety about stuff, but I don't ruminate for days and weeks on end. I can sort of process it and talk through it, and it washes away much faster. But there's so much about maintaining control under an addiction. And part of that addiction was trying to control your narrative and trying to control what's in your body. And it's tough. And when you mention eating a pint of ice cream and a bag of candy, like, that's fine. Like, I do that sometimes. I'm not a sweet person now, but I'll eat a bag of, like, chips are my thing. I'll eat a whole bag and know that I might feel a little bloated, but this is my treat tonight. And I want to watch a movie and sit on the couch and eat everything I want. But I know it's not a binge purge. It's not a be all end all. It's not a game changer. And I, will have a workout that day, and it's just how I want to treat myself. It's not destructive at this point. It's not overtaking. It's not secret. I can do it with people.
Yeah. It's the mentality shift. It's like, I can do this thing and have it not mean what it used to mean.
Yeah.
And that it can just sort of be a part of my normal everyday being and not this like driving thing that's like controlling everything that I do.
That's so important.
Kyle, one of the things that listening to you has made me realize, it sounds like the experience that you went through was a very internal one. And it's interesting. I've known some other people that have struggled with bulimia or anorexia or various other eating disorders. And it's crossed my mind. I'm curious how they relate to me, right? In me existing in a fat body, Do they feel like when you're in that state, do you feel like, why aren't you, fat person, doing what I'm doing to look like the way I think everyone should look? Or is it entirely in your own head thinking about your own existence?
No, I don't think that's a correct view. No, just like we're in the bar, as you realize the older you get, you think everyone is staring at you and everyone's judging you. And I didn't take my shirt off until probably my mid 30s, and I was, rail thin, and I've been bigger, and I've been, it was just however I looked, I wasn't comfortable. And then you realize, oh, look at everyone in the bar. Everyone has their shirt off and everyone's dancing and having fun. No one gives a shit about how you look. I'm not caring how they look. Yeah. I am focused on me. And it's the same, just like you're so focused on yourself. It's a welcoming community. I think it's more so a welcoming world, especially in the gay community. I've never felt like, oh, they should be doing what I'm doing. I'm applauding anyone that is just comfortable in their skin. I think that's what most people struggling want, is just to feel okay with how they look, because they're not judging others. They're really only beating themselves up.
Yeah. I would say, though, I think there is a huge concern if you want to call it the orthorexia community, where the whole point of orthorexia is doing it right, and that means for other people too. But I'm not sure that's inherently part of an eating disorder or more part of something else. There can be sort of an evangelism that you see, in ex-smokers, in ex-fat people, where there's, and again, I'm not sure that's the same as an eating disorder, but it's definitely something that gets put out there. I used to be this, I'm no longer this, you don't have to be this either.
Yeah, I haven't encountered that as much, but I'm sure it's true. Just like I think addicts and people that are in recovery, those people in the 12-step programs who think that if you're not in a 12-step program and you're in recovery, you're not doing it right, or you're going to relapse. I think there's people who are really passionate about the right way to get better, but I don't subscribe to that.
You don't subscribe to that, yeah.
However you can get better and help yourself, that's how I applaud you. And I encourage everyone to start with, obviously, you have to admit it to yourself, but opening up to one person is really, that is in your corner, is going to be a good starting point that you can actually share with. Because again, you're hiding so much within, you're having so much bottled up, and you're really only releasing it yourself through unhealthy ways.
So what are some of the things that you wish for other people to have in their lives when they start their recovery?
A good support system. So whether it's family or friends or a partner that you can talk to and open up, because you're going to have down days, you're going to have struggles that, you're going to have. Just like drugs, I had withdrawal symptoms, not severe to where I could be hospitalized, but like hard to sleep. You're used to having that fix every night, that binge, hard to go to sleep. There's so many support groups, not just in-person support groups like AA meetings. There's OA meetings. You can also find support groups online everywhere. There's message boards. There's Facebook groups. There's so many eating disorder websites that I could send them to you. But and obviously therapy. If you can't afford therapy, there's cheaper versions of therapy, online therapy. Writing, I think, helps if you're able to write your feelings and maybe just share them with one person if you want. I've found that writing a bit about my experience has helped, and being able to give it to someone if you're not wanting to speak with them. That's a good way to start, open the dialogue.
I like the idea of writing, because I think the hardest thing to do oftentimes is just understanding. Like, you might have this vague sense or even a sharp sense of what this is. Like, this is not great. This is not great. What am I doing? What am I doing? But then you just keep going. And then if you interrupt the flow of that by actually stating in your own words, this is what's happening to me, or maybe even better, this is what I'm doing, I think that is the easiest step towards then being able to talk about it with a person.
Yeah.
Because actually sitting in front of somebody and letting them see you is kind of terrifying, especially if you've never done it before. The fear is probably that, oh, what if they don't catch? If I put myself out there and admit this thing that feels so hard to admit, are they going to catch me? Like, are they going to go there with me? Are they going to, because like, I think especially for men, where you're very much trained from a young, impressionable age not to express yourself at all. The idea that you're going to talk to someone else and that they're going to actually hear you and see you is kind of a foreign concept, because we're not taught to be like that at all. Like, we're taught the opposite of that. Mm-hmm. It's not how people are, even if it's mostly just how men aren't. But really, that's not even true. That's just a lie that we're told when we're young. And if you're in that place in your life, then you probably haven't done it before. You probably are very hidden.
Well, seeing yourself is what you're saying.
Yeah, see yourself first. Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of healing along the way, and there's a lot of benefits that come with it.
Just make it out of your 20s.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think that's great.
It gets better.
Yeah.
it really does. It really does.
Well, thank you so much, Kyle. We really enjoyed having you on and hearing
Yeah.
about this.
Yeah.
It's so important.
This was a pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm happy to come back and talk about a lot of fun stuff too. 'Cause this is a heavy conversation. But,
Yeah.
You know, I have a lot of fun stuff to talk about too.
If people want to get in touch with you, how would you prefer they do that? Is there a handle you got or a...
Yeah. Instagram is probably the best. It's just my name, Kyle Ridley _. And then the Tangle with Kyle Ridley podcast, wherever you subscribe. It's mainly a celebrity interview podcast, sort of coming from my journalism days, but a lot of LGBTQ advocates on, and like Dustin Lance Black, who wrote Milk. I've had Carson Kressley, Ross Matthews, Danny Roberts, if you're a real world New Orleans kid.
Oh,
back
that's
in the
great.
90s, had him on the show. So yeah, a lot of fun along the way.
That's great.
Fantastic.
And Guy Branum, I'm in touch with him right now to come on the podcast. So
Oh, wonderful.
Ooh,
Oh,
that's
great.
going to be fun.
So, Kyle, would you like to join us for our bit today as we wrap up the show?
Something,
Yeah.
something a little lighthearted. Give us something to laugh about.
Yeah.
So we've got a little trivia game today in celebration of our body diversity. So in the animal kingdom, we have such a wide variety of body types. And so since I figured we would deal with some of the bigger animals and some of the much more narrow animals today. Right. So starting on the bigger side of things, blubber. Blubber is a thing. Blubber is real. Blubber is life-saving and valuable and wonderful. For those of you who don't know what blubber is a specialized type of fat found in marine animals, characterized by its thickness and ability to insulate against cold temperatures. So while we know that blubber is very similar to fat, it is actually different.
Is it really?
There is one major difference between fat and blubber.
Oh, boy.
What is one of the main differences? 1, blubber has more blood vessels than fat. 2, blubber has less blood vessels than fat. 3, blubber contains higher concentrations of calcium and magnesium, making it less heat conductive. Or 4, Dawn is full of crap. Blubber is just a word meaning fat found in chubby, aquatic, cute animals. Which of these do you think is the correct answer?
I think it has fewer blood vessels. That sort of makes sense to me. Like if your blood is circulating more internally, then it's not going to get
Get
as
as cold.
cold, and cold is kind of the point of it, I guess. I don't know.
I
That's my
like the
guess.
logic of that. I'm going to go with that too.
What was the third option?
Third option, blubber contains higher concentrations of calcium and magnesium, making it less heat conductive.
I'm going to say that one just because it's like, it's a thing. Sure.
Kyle, what do you know about blubber? Come on.
I'll say the first one. I'll say what everyone else didn't. I'll say it has more blood vessels.
More blood vessels. Kyle going out on a limb, going solo, and being right.
No.
Oh,
Really?
Blubber has more blood vessels because the creatures depend on it way more. It has to stay oxidized, nutrient supplied, and it actually has higher concentrations of some nutrients than normal
I
fat.
love that.
So,
Vascular fat.
vascular fat. That's what it is. All right.
Okay.
Now, being in the animal kingdom, being big is a legit defense strategy. Let's face it, if it's not going to fit in your mouth, it's just not on the menu. And that's true of dating too.
I know, Don, that hasn't stopped a lot of people.
We all like to push our limits. All right. But every single thing that's big on this planet has to start small and get big eventually. And with that in mind, growing and gaining weight can be an essential defense strategy too. There's a large creature existing on the earth that has mastered growth strategy as a defense and have been seen to grow at a rate of nearly 2 pounds a day during parts of their juvenile growth cycle, making them the fastest weight-gaining animals in the animal kingdom. Which animal are we talking about?
Oh, goodness.
1, the blue whale. 2, the African hippo. 3, the mola mola or sunfish. Or 4, the European queen bee.
I was
Two
thinking it was either the whale or
pounds?
the whale or the.
That's just to see if people are listening.
When you were talking, I was thinking it's a hippo.
I was thinking hippo or
we
whale.
got one for hippos.
I'm tending to think whale just because of the difference between the birthing size and the adult size.
My thought with the whale was that I wonder how slow that process might be, though. Like, how slowly does a whale actually grow? I think maybe hippo also.
Yeah, I'm going to say
that's where
I'm thinking
going.
hippo because whales are pretty big when they're born. I mean, they're not as big, but they're bigger than hippos.
I guess I'll go with the hippo because
Peer
Just
pressure.
jumping on board.
One of us.
I really want to go.
Follower.
I want to go with a whale, but I think it's the hippo. I don't know.
Okay. Well, in fact, all of you are wrong. It is the mola mola or sunfish.
Good God,
This
man.
crazy ass
Is that
fish. If
big?
you've ever seen this fish,
I have not.
okay, these fish grow to be over a ton, right?
Holy shit! I didn't.
Yeah,
realize that.
they look like gigantic floating heads or millstones with little like turtle flippers on their head and
Good Lord.
bellies. It's hard to explain, but these things are fascinating. They're basically gigantic cartilage fish. They're bone
my
fish
God.
that have no swim bladder. So they survive by eating tiny little jellyfish going up and down to the surface and down to the depths of the ocean. They're one of 2 creatures on Earth that can do this. And these things grow like crazy because mostly they're made of inedible substances that nothing else on Earth wants to eat. So they just eat all this jellyfish and just glom it onto their bodies and become these big floating heads. It's fascinating.
I'm imagining the face of Bo from Doctor Who.
Yes, it's very much like that. It looks so much like that. Okay.
Is there, so I've seen a meme of, I think it's this fish where like a chunk of its head is missing and it's still alive.
Yep.
Good God.
That is that fish. It's huge portions of its body are just not needed.
Yeah.
You know? All right. Going from the larger animals to the smaller, daddy longlegs are a name we've given to a number of different creatures across the United States. And frankly, none of them are spiders.
I think it's a category on
Yeah.
Tinder.
They're not true spiders because they don't have segmented bodies like a spider does. And unlike real spiders, their legs don't regenerate. Right? While these legs can be used in defense in a number of different ways that other spiders do, like having them tear away easily, daddy longlegs use their legs in a unique ways to defend themselves that other spiders do not. Which of the following ways is a true way daddy longlegs defend themselves?
They take their leg off
One.
and beat their opponent with it.
1, they'll leave a detached leg out as bait to attract prey.
What?
2, they will swarm in groups to confuse predators with hundreds and hundreds of wiggling legs. 3, they will use their detached legs as tools to access hidden prey. Or 4, males will use their own detached legs to frighten off other males during mating season.
Good God. I'm saying that it's a tool.
I think it's the first one because I like the idea of a daddy longlegs taking its leg and being like, yoo and like waving its leg out from behind a corner.
I'll go with the third option.
They will use their detached legs as tools to access hidden
Yes.
prey.
Yes.
All right.
Me too.
I'll go with Trevor. I think. Yeah.
All right. Well, in fact, none of you got that one right.
Oh, poop.
That's the only spider to swarm in groups. And then when they're sort of discovered, they will kind of cluster together and just wildly vibrate. And those legs,
I guess I have seen that.
it's impossible. It's apparently very difficult for predators to pick them out when they're in that sort of mass.
This is often instead of chasers at Bigger Vegas. They're
my
they're
God.
huddled together, quivering.
Yeah.
All right, so I am sufficiently disturbed by our skinny and fat animals of the day. Trevor, if people have more disturbing animal details they'd like to tell us about, where could they do that?
Well, we're on Blue Sky and Instagram as @BigFatGayPod. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. Leave us 5 stars there and a review on your preferred podcast platform. Support us on Patreon at patreon.com/BigFatGayPod. See the articles we talked about at www.bigfatgaypod.com, baby. Maybe you're a bird looking, you're digging, you pull back some shrubbage. And you see a writhing mass.
Oh,
and
God.
it's a
Don't,
bunch of
Trevor.
Daddy Long Michaels. So
Watch out.
Watch the fuck out.